Participants, please be on mute, please. Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good
Good
morning, sir.
morning, sir.
I welcome everybody to this session to train yourself as a research guide. This is actually not a subject of talk. It is something that is being done for the newcomers who have not done PhD and wish to do PhD, and later they want to become a research guide. If a person has done PhD, which means he has enough experience to guide others to obtain a PhD degree from any recognized institute. Now, I'll just give you the idea how it can be done. The PhD degree is not actually a training program for a teacher to become a research guide, but actually this is a program to do specialization in a branch, especially not in a subject, in a branch of a wide subject. So once you start doing the work, you can learn how to find out the new things and what are the loopholes. And teaching program is B.Ed degree for teachers who are teaching students in a school up to 12th standard. Once you do research, obtain a PhD degree, you can do as you do in the laboratory or in the field or in any organization. Here there are some requirements for a person to become a PhD guide. These have been outlined as shown in the prerequisite. There are 4 points which are essential for a person to become a research supervisor. Once you do PhD for yourself, then you learn how to write a project, how to write a research paper, and how to write a thesis. That experience counts, but these conditions that you should have published at least 2 research papers in a recognized journal which has some impact factor. Those impacts actually refer to the circulation of the journal. The maximum circulation means the maximum readers. And if many people are reading your research work, which means it has been publicized among greater number of the people in the world. Recognition comes when many people go through your work, and when this work is recognized by people who are working in that area, then it is something that can be added to the knowledge of the existing category of the subject. The person should hold a permanent position in a laboratory or in a teaching institute. Here, laboratory means it is non-teaching organization like toxicological research center or any government pharmacy or any institution where research is being carried out, but it's not a teaching institution like college or university. These 4 points are the basic requirement for a person to become a research guide. But this is not only thing that one should have. One should also have a teaching experience. Once you are appointed in a college or in any research institute or university, then you have enough experience of teaching and research together. So you teach people what they do not know, and you learn what you do not know. So teaching is a process where we teach people which they do not know, and we learn what we do not know, which means we have to learn and we have to impart this knowledge among the people who are ignorant of that portion of the subject. To become a research supervisor, there are certain other points which have been laid down by colleges, universities, UGC, and sometimes by other organizations and the advisors of the government on research. Here, this is the fundamental points that I have already given you in the previous slide. There were 4 points. There are some more points which are given here, that one should have completed a PhD program and should have spent about 3 to 5 years in doing research. You should have then be able to write a project with a suitable title and must be able to write a research paper. And if you have already your thesis submitted it, then you should be able to write the thesis and the research paper. Because what you have done, you write. Nothing else has to be written. No criticism is to be done there, but you have to criticize yourself that you have done it and you found this result, which may be corroborated by other research workers who have already done in that area. So it is not always essential that your research is followed by others or you follow others, because you innovate something, you search something when you have a quest for doing the things in that area. Should be able to operate the instruments. If you are doing some research in science, technology, agriculture, or medicine, then you have to use instruments. Many instruments according to your needs, like testing of blood. You require a spectrophotometer, and the classical method is the same as it is being used, because the change in color can be recorded by the spectrophotometer, and then you can learn how to find the change in color, what is the chemical reaction. There you learn something as chemistry or physics, but you also learn how to operate this instrument and on which principle it is based. The next point is, once you do it, you have to collect the data from the experimental evidences, and then you can interpret them. Interpretation means it is not always essential that you get a positive result. Sometimes you don't get the positive result. Statistically, it may be significant, but it may not be economical. Like once you use manure in the field, any kind of manure like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, as it is known to everybody that NPK is a fertilizer as a mixture. It is sprayed on the leaves. It's a simple foliar application of NPK dissolved in water that absorbs. And here the data is simple. Where you sprayed was a field of a grain. Grain means it may be barley or it may be wheat. There you used it, and the quantity used, the area used, you can find out that how much grain has been obtained per hectare or per meter. Then you calculate the statistics. What was the yield earlier and what is the yield now after the foliar application of the NPK fertilizer. These data will have to reflect the productivity, which means that the change in productivity or increase in productivity has been given to you. as a pointer to use these fertilizers. But if it continues for years, can it stay? Can it increase further, or there is an optimum limit? So data collection means from the data, you should be able to interpret that this can be used in this quantity, that is quantity per hectare or per meter, and the yield per hectare or per meter. So if percentage can be calculated, and if it is economical, it can be used. You can formulate it. For data, you need a calculator, or for tedious calculations, you need computer. So today, everybody is acquainted with the computer operation, and I hope you are also using it in one or the other way, the computer, to calculate your results and to find out whether it is applicable in your area. Then we have always a simple question: how many people we can guide for the PhD program? So that depends on your position, your rank, your availability, and your engagement in the college or in the university. So these are the simple ones which have been given on the basis of the college and the Board of Studies, which suggest that how many people can be guided by the teacher, depending on their rank and their space provided by the college or the institute. So a professor can guide 5 to 7 students, which means that he has enough time, enough experience, and a good group of people who are using. The senior people can help the junior people in working, and also they can help them write the project and to get the right results. Manipulation sometimes is done by people, not by doing the experiment, but by just taking the average of the other workers, which can be found out because the results are not always dependent on the previous work on a particular title or particular area. So this is the number of the students guided by the teachers under various categories. There are other points which have also been taken up to highlight that how a research degree will be used to do research and also to innovate something. There is a difference in innovation, doing research work, academic or industrial work, and innovative work, academic work. These are all the type of the researches which are related to the subject and also related to your institute. If you are working in a teaching organization, you must be doing work which is not industrial. It is always an academic work that adds to the knowledge, adds to the present knowledge in the subject. So you should have some publications or some patent, some research paper. You should have attended some conference, written a book or book chapter, or you have guided the research project under essential category of the PG students in the last semester of their work. But because in some of the universities, there is always a project to be carried out by the students at the postgraduate level in the last 2 semesters. There, they learn how to find out the current literature in the subject and how to proceed for a PhD degree, to write the project, to get the results, to interpret the results, to publish the paper, and then finally you have to sum it up, what you have done and what you wish to do in the future. That is always essential, that an investigator should find time to carry out investigation in the laboratory. Whenever I talk laboratory, I mean that it should be related to the research in the sciences, not in the area of arts, music, law, theology, and social work. There is a difference in the research in the sciences and the arts subject, because there you need only data. Where you don't create the data, you have to be dependent on the government organization to get the data from them. And that is not a current data. The current will be at least 1 year old. You are not aware of the data available. If you are working in political science, you would need data from the parliament, from the newspapers, from magazines. So it is only the data that you have to collect from different sources. But in science, you can collect data of older literature. At the same time, you have to work in the laboratory, not in the field. These are some of the things that is needed. The experience that you gain will be helpful in getting your PhD degree and also as an additional qualification in doing your research. The research in science areas, especially in physical sciences and medicine, you always need new techniques to check the rapid analysis of the subject. Like, for example, the analysis of sugar or finding out the sugar in the blood, especially in diabetic persons. So the old technique is based on a simple way of checking the sugar in the blood or in the urine. If the sugar is present in the urine, one has to check it simply by taking saline solution. If you are a science student, you must be knowing saline solution, or otherwise I can tell you what is saline solution. Sodium hydroxide separately in one container and cupric sulfate, which is blue in color, in another container. The sample of blood or the urine is taken in a tube, slightly heated, and then cupric sulfate is added to it, heated again, and then sodium hydroxide is added to make it alkaline. If there is sugar, then this blue solution will turn red. And if there is no sugar, there will be no change. The blue color stands there. This is a simple technique that was done using saline solution. But the same technique has been used now to the instrument, because it takes about 5 minutes to analyze the sugar in urine or the blood. This is a physical training, but the same has been taken by the people to do the analysis by the instrument. There you have to prepare the solution and it has to be analyzed through the instrument, because there you have already a graph which gives you the optical density or absorption. And when you use your solution, you get another absorption. You can read it there and immediately you get the quantity of the sugar in percent. So what I wanted to emphasize that you should be able to know the techniques which you are using. In languages, you have to find out the literature through computation, through the books, and then you have to make a comparison of the various works in that area. Like, for example, in poetry or in drama, you have to put all the things according to their popularity in that area. If it is a simple drama or a classical drama or a folk song, its popularity has to be calculated on the basis of the audience. Therefore, in the same way, in sciences, the new techniques are developed only depending on the necessity. If the data is very large, you have to find out a very rapid technique that can be used for a number of data which can be calculated within minutes. So computer is used and the instrumentation is always essential. Similarly, theoretical developments can also be made depending on your qualification. If you are using only computer, you should be able to find out the statistics of your subject. How many data you have collected and how you can find out whether it is significant or insignificant. So in research, you need computation, you need techniques, you need new papers, and there you can add something new to it so that the people who are coming to join you, they should learn something more than what they have already learned. Here also the same paper and some new points have been added. Who can apply to become a research guide? This is the condition in colleges, especially private colleges managed by a group of people who are organizing it. In universities and recognized colleges, there is no restriction. If you have time, you can get yourself registered as a guide by the university. If you are affiliated to any university, then the university will allow you to register a student to do research. So a teacher should hold a permanent position in the college or university. Scientists working in any other organization, which is a non-teaching organization, can also become a research guide, but not as a full-time research guide. They can become a co-guide. That I will explain later in the next slides. The guide should have at least published. In the previous slide, I had shown that there is a condition that one should publish at least 2 research papers. Here, it has been suggested that one should have published at least 5 papers. Maybe there are some areas where rapid publications are possible, but in some areas where you are dependent on the literature, which is not under your control, like in biochemistry, like in political science, and also in medicine, it is difficult to publish 5 papers during your stay as a research student, because the work which is done on plants and animals, that takes long time, and to find out good result and good medicine or development of any technique, that takes very long time. So you should have published at least some paper and should also be acquainted with the knowledge of the subject and also to write those things. Should be able to see that if you have copied some paper or somebody is copying something to support his argument, support his result, you should not copy as a whole. You should refer to that work, otherwise it will come under plagiarism. There is a certain percentage which is allowed, and beyond that, it will be said that you have simply copied it and supported it. So, this is another. Please, there is a limitation to the guide. What limitation? What happened? How many students one can guide? I have already given it to you, but there is again this classification of number of students and facilities available in your department or in your college. That how many students you can guide, that depends on your space provided by the college, your availability in the institute, and the literature, the instrument, and the space that is available. That is very essential, that you should have time to discuss your problems with the students, and the student should always do the work and discuss it every day, so that you should be aware of the difficulties and aware of the subject and the knowledge which is expanding. So reading, working, and discussing the work is an additional job of the teacher or the supervisor, which can be done every day when you find time. And a weekly discussion with the students should also be done, so that they should be aware that how much work they have done in a week, in a month, and in a year. Because your project has to be divided into various sections. Because some part is to be done immediately, some part is to be done slowly. The experimentation takes time, and during that time, you can go to see the books and also find some new techniques, new results, which can be added up to your subject. There is a great involvement of the department, because all Board of Studies, in consultation with all the teachers, will decide what to do, especially in the teaching. Your teaching load is very high. Sometimes in the college, you don't have time to go for lunch even. So it is always a part of your work that you should find time if you are interested in doing research in college or in any institute. So allocation of the students is done normally by the Board of Studies of the department or principal of your college in consultation with the people who are interested in doing research. It is also the subject of the research is to be decided by the guide himself. But sometimes you can consult the student if he is interested in doing that, depending on the availability of the equipments in the department and availability of the space. That is, you should have at least one laboratory shared by others also, but you should have a laboratory and the equipment on which you can work. Teaching load of the faculty member. This is always very essential, because I can understand that you have very high teaching loads. You do not find time to stay in the laboratory or to stay in the office. So if you don't have time to spare, then you cannot do research work or you cannot guide your students. For arts people, they can spare their time at home also. They can read the books, they can read the newspaper, many journals and many magazines, collect the data from there. But those who are working in the laboratory, it is difficult for them to do it at home, except that they have done something, they can do the theoretical work at home. Expertise of the guide is always necessary. That if you are working in a language like in English, you cannot do the same thing in Persian, because the language is different and the language is dependent on the culture also. One language, one culture, the other language, the other culture. And also the language is related to the literature of the subject and the people. The classical words that are being used as a slang, they are used sometime in the drama, which does not have any meaning, but you cannot avoid it. Similarly, the expertise in an area, either it is music or it is science or it is language, your expertise is necessary in any area of the research, and the same can be extended further by doing research with the help of your student and also with the help of the staff of your college. If the student is qualified and has a scholarship, then it is easy for him also, because without money you cannot pursue your research. If your college is sanctioning you some amount for doing research, a student will be happy to do that, but it will not suffice for him to carry out investigation for 3 to 4 years without any money. I would then suggest that the student from time to time should be able to apply for research in any funding agency, and also should appear for a qualifying test conducted by UGC. Eligibility criteria to become a research guide. These are some of the UGC rules. What we have already discussed, that is something which is related to the college and the space and your teaching load. Here, the same paper, same thing has been explained by UGC as a rule. So, the first point is that a teacher should hold a permanent position in the institute, should be able to guide others, should have published at least some paper, and should be able to write the research paper, and also allocation of the students to the supervisor independent on the department. And that depends on the space, your time, and your teaching load. The last point is the allocation of a co-supervisor. This is not a point that whether you need a co-supervisor or not, but a co-supervisor can be appointed in consultation with the supervisor and the college. If that particular area needs some additional help, like if somebody is working in agriculture in the field, he needs equipment to operate, and that facility is not available in his parent department. So he can take the help of other people who are working in any other non-teaching organization, but they have this facility. Either you can do it on payment, or you can take the help of any person in that laboratory who is a qualified person, means he holds a PhD degree. He can be then appointed as a co-supervisor. Normally, a co-supervisor can be appointed from a teaching institution, but he can also be appointed from a non-teaching organization. A non-teaching organization is not a PhD awarding institute. Degree can be awarded by a teaching institute only. Therefore, it is always necessary to have a teaching guide from a teaching institution and a co-guide or co-supervisor from a non-teaching organization or a teaching organization. If certain portion of your work is to be carried out there, or help can be sought from that institute. It is done in consultation with the department of the studies, by the university or by the college, in consultation with the principal. A co-guide can be appointed and can take the help of him in that area. The qualification of the teacher and the number of the students to be guided are divided into these categories. If a teacher is only MPhil and wish to carry out research and investigation, as a guide, he can hold the number of students depending on his mission and availability of the space in the department. These are suggestions from various organizations. But basically, one should be a qualified person, should have 2 to 3 years experience of teaching and research in any institute. There is some facility that has been provided to the women candidate. In transferable posts for teaching, one can be transferred from one place to another place, but there is a relaxation for women candidate to put her in a place which is comfortable, especially those who are married couples and working in the same institute. If they are transferred to two different places, it will be difficult for them to cope with that situation because they have to have two different establishments and your children will suffer. Therefore, there are some relaxations as maternity leave and some other things which are to be provided legally. Selection of research problem and stages of research. Once you start doing research, you should be able to find out that how much time will it take. Because you have to at least divide it into 3 phases. That you choose a problem which can be done at your place. Like somebody said that you can make a bomb also. Of course, we can make a bomb. We know how to make a bomb. But we do not have the ingredients. We do not have the ingredients even to make a cracker. So why should you choose a problem which cannot be done, although you know the technique? So only technique will not do. You have to work for the things which is available. If the things are available, then you can do it. But you don't look for the things which are not available and which cannot be provided to you. So you should always restrict yourself that you can do a research properly at a place where these facilities are available, depending on your subject, whether it is physics or it is microbiology or geology, that will help you doing it. Now, the prior knowledge subject, that is your specialization. If you have been specialized in such an area in any subject, you should restrict yourself in that area so that you know better than anyone else. And the design of your work. Design of your work should be such that you can do it. Because if you design to make some experiment or some trial in a remote area, then you cannot do it. So only preparation of the subject and design will not work. You should design your work such that you can do it in a certain place, in a lab or outside the lab or in the field. Then comes imagination, hypothesis, experiment, and theory. Here I would explain very vividly that imagination does not mean that you simply imagine. Imagination means such imaginations like flying aircraft. Before the aircraft was made, we could see the birds flying, and we can see the birds flying even today. We can think that we can also fly like birds. Then it is an imagination. Then we have to have a hypothesis. Hypothesis means you can propose it, that it can be done. An imagination is one you can dream. Hypothesis is one that you can suggest, like John Dalton suggested that an atom cannot be divided into pieces. That was in early 19th century. There were no instruments then. Atom could not be divided. That was true. Then comes experiment. You have to prove with the experiment. When you prove the experiment, it becomes your theory. So you can put down knowledge that you have proved through experimentation and put into theory. The theoretical consideration can be proved by experiment. These are the things that you do. Immediately you imagine it, hypothesize it, and then you do it, and finally you take into words that becomes a theory. Theory can sometimes, if it is only theory that has not been experimentally proved, it can be at a moment of criticism, or theory can be modified. Because once you do experiment, you get a different result. That result can be put into theory, and theory can then be modified. Now comes the experimentation. Experimentation, classical instruments are available. You can do the experimentation, but it all depends on you. How you can interpret the results, how can you maneuver the things. You can say that the same result can be interpreted and you can get something new. So there are ways that you get the data, but you have to see it from different angles. And those angles, if you, just like a 3D picture, if you see from one angle, you can get a picture of choice for one person. If you see it from another angle, you can see the other face. Like, for instance, if you see something like this, you can see the face pointing towards you. If you see it from a different angle, or you change it like this, you can see the horizontal position or the axial position, and you can revert it like this. There are different angles, different ways of seeing it, and the different interpretations. So if you see something, you listen to a voice, a musician will appreciate it. And somebody will say it is noise. Somebody will say that it is a sonorous voice. So this is dependent on your vision and on your interpretation. So you should be able to do the experiment, collect the data, and then analyze it in accordance with the theory. And the results may not be exactly what you expect. The result may be different. So you have to, again, interpret the result in view of the data available, not in view that somebody has done it, somebody got this result. You interpret your own results. Then comes point 5, interpretation of the meaningful results. How you can interpret it. Like interpretation of the data means that you have produced something. Like I give you one example, that instrumentation or interpretation. Here, I was talking about the interpretation of the meaningful results. If your result is based on instrumentation and you have done it already with the imagination, then you can theorize it or you can make modification. Like here, the best thing you can follow from here, modification in the drug, cosmetics, or medicine. Everybody is using a cream. A cream is a simple sodium salt and mixed with a little soap. And sometimes these are the sodium salts mixed with glycerin and some liquid and perfume. This is being used with different names available in the market. Especially during the winter season, you can see that there are different creams available in the market and being used by so many people. But sometimes somebody sees that this cream can be used for some other purpose also. So one company thought that the research and development section of that company thought that we can use this cream for a different purpose. And now the sunscreen lotion or sunscreen cream is available in the market. With the addition of zinc oxide, 0.1% zinc oxide is added to the same cream. That hardly cost 1 or 2 rupees per 100 ml. But this addition makes the cream expensive. Why? Because zinc oxide, which is used in the cream, protects the skin from damage by ultraviolet rays. Once the skin comes in contact with the sunlight, the ultraviolet rays will damage the skin, which is exposed to the sunlight. Zinc oxide absorbs the ultraviolet rays and prevents it from damage by UV light. A little change in the cosmetics makes the cream heavily expensive. This is a point where you can do something in the original. If you have the original thing, you can make modification, even in the theory and experimentation. Be it a research in political science or in sciences or medicine. Everywhere a change can make something good. Like one example I gave you, the simple cosmetics or cream being used as a general cream, which can also be used as a sunscreen lotion or sunscreen cream, which is very useful but expensive in the market. Although there is nothing very special about it. So this is an example where I suggested that you can make modification in your theories, in your experimentation. Then comes the presentation of the data, whether the data is significant or insignificant. That will always presentation of the data. You can do it either as tabular form or graphical or in histogram. Significant or insignificant, that depends on the statistics. The presentation can be done in these two forms where you can pick easily. In tabular form, you have to read the lowest and the highest value. In graphical data, you can see it visually and immediately you can point that this is the best data available. Here, I had always given the things in detail in the previous slide. The same has been explained here. Number one, imagination. How imagination can build a new thing or put something new. Inventions have been done only by imagination, like telephone, television, your mobile telephone, and data, picture in picture. These are innovations. They did not exist. The imagination can be done, and then you can use it in your life. Like people thought that they can fly like birds. Icarus was the first person who used this imagination, and he thought that if he jumps from a building and flatters his both hands, just like the wing of a bird, he can fly in the sky. He was the first person to jump from the roof. He did it, and the poor fellow died. Because imagination was correct that he could fly, but he did not have the wings which could propel him to upward movement. Later, the same idea was used by Wright brothers, Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright. There were two brothers who also thought that they can fly in the sky, but they should have some flying machine. So they built an engine that could propel the air outside and lift the machine upwards. They used it and they flew in the sky for 1 or 2 kilometers. They came back and landed. That was the first successful experiment based on imagination, but when imagination was put into practice. So what you can do, you imagine, you dream about anything, and then you put it in the right order. There will be success or there will be part of failure. So unsuccessful effort can also be done, and later that can be modified and people can get the right kind of the data, right kind of the result, which can be used for peaceful purposes. Then comes the hypothesis. I had explained the hypothesis earlier, and then observation. Observation means you can make your observation daily. You put the water bottle in the fridge and see that the water is cool. Why? Your observation is that the fridge brings the temperature down to about 12 degrees, and anything that is kept inside is cool. What your observation is that the observation is not cooling of water only. You will say that the temperature of the water has been brought down. The temperature brought down means it was hot relatively and now it is cooled relatively. So observation will say that a change in temperature made the water cool. Then comes the experimentation. If you have made observation, you can do the experiment yourself. You do 2 water bottles. Take 2 water bottles, one put in the fridge and one outside the fridge. This is the daily routine. You can take out the bottle after 1 hour and compare it with the temperature of the bottle that you had kept outside. There will be a change in temperature. One will be at 12 degrees, the other one will be at 25 degrees, or the atmospheric temperature. Therefore, observation is always essential, and the right observation will make a change in the theory. You can theorize it based on the facts. The research is defined as the systematic investigation. It was told by Moser that research is not something that you do always at home. You do in the laboratory, you do in the field, you do in the pots with your vegetables, with your crops, or with your birds, or whatever pets you have. You can do experiment with them also and make observations. You can make observation of their sound. You can make observation of their skill to hunt. These are the things that you can visualize and make changes. The same thing is true about the research being done in the lab or in the field. Collection of the data, analysis, and different sources. You do it outside the laboratory, you collect the data and then analyze it. And those things which are being done in the field of agriculture are dependent, are time bound. Like you grow wheat or barley, that takes about 4 months. So your research will be restricted to the crop of 4 months. You have to make all the observations within that time. But if you are doing something in the laboratory, you can do it anytime. You can do it at night, you can do it in the day, you can do it today, you can do it after 1 year. But with living system like crops, you are restricted to the time, depending whether the crop is 3 months time or crop takes 1 year or crop makes several years. Observation will be dependent on the time and facts that it lasts for a certain period of time. What we can do is innovative research, discovery, extending old research. The research can be done in different areas. So innovative research means that you can do something which did not exist. That is invention of telephone, invention of atomic bomb that did not exist. But discovery is a word that is used for something that was known to the people, not known to the people, but that existed. That is known as discovery. Discovery of America, discovery of India. Those who did not know, and even at this moment, we do not know there are some islands. But once we know it, it will be a discovery because the island existed. This is the difference between innovation and discovery. And we can extend the old research. The third type of research is extending the old research. We can learn from the previous work that is done, and we can go ahead of it, extending that area of research. These are the three basic type of the researches, but besides that, we have to see that we know the methodology which is available in the book, some methodology that we develop, and that developed portion can be used by others, what we call standard operating procedure. So we can refer to that work and develop our own work. That is not plagiarism, but that is an advancement. Those things which are common and are known to others, that is not a research, but that is something collection of the data. The same scientific data can be collected from any other source that is already documented. Before working on a research project, we have to answer ourselves, or we have to see whether it is feasible. The first word, it is raison d'être. This is a French word, which means reason to do. Once we start with the project, we should be able to answer this question. What is the reason of doing it? The first question arises that we are doing PhD. I'm in a PhD program, we have to do this work. Then when you say what, it comes in your imagination that there should be a project. So why should we take up a project? Because this is the work that we are interested in. So we do only those things in which we are interested. And why we are interested? Because this can be done at a certain place, whether it is a college or whether it is a laboratory or whether it is a field work. So the work is to be done either in the lab or in the field or in a room or in a computer lab. If you are doing simply the theoretical calculation, you need only a computer. You can sit in anywhere. You can do it at home if you have a sophisticated computer, or you can go to any computer laboratory, there you can use it. So depending on your facility available and the instrument, according to your needs, the research work is done to expand the knowledge, not only the collection of the data. And expansion of the knowledge comes in every area, whether it is philosophy, whether it is medicine, or whether it is political science. And then we have category of research. The fundamental research that is related only to the academics. Applied research that is done mainly by the industries and engineering people, where they use the techniques to save time, to save money, to save electricity, and to save manpower. Most of the things are then automated. So applied research is done to produce some materials of use, like production of candle to be used outside, production of an engine, production of a machine to save time, production of an aircraft in any field, and those researches are related mainly to the industries where R&D section is developing new techniques, new medicines, and new vaccines. Even in medicine, new things are produced, but that takes a longer period of time. Then we have field research. This area is restricted normally to journalism, to geography, and geology, where people cannot do everything in the lab. They have to go to search for their sample. They have to go to the field, collect the material, and then analyze it at home. For writing a research proposal, this is something like you make a proposal and put it in words. Then you have to explain aims and objective. Why do you want to do this research? What is your aim? You have to put it there. Like one example I can give you. Like something, you want to produce a vaccine. Then you have to write, we want to produce a vaccine which can be used for coronavirus. Then you have to give the methodology. Which methodology you are using? Methodology means you have to analyze the virus, what it contains. I can tell you certainly, certain proteins are available in the virus. If you kill the virus from outside, or you can break the protein chain, you can kill them. But which methodology can you use? This is the idea of killing the virus, treating the patient. But which methodology? You cannot kill food from outside to the patient because the size of the virus is 1/1 crore meter. This is the size of the virus. So how can you kill it? Except that you penetrate a medicine either through blood or through your skin. You have to mention the methodology that this method will be used. Then comes time. For a patient, you want to treat him as early as possible. The patient has to be relieved. You have to also give the time. So how much time will be required to produce a vaccine? Normally, for a vaccine to prepare as a new one, it requires at least 3 years, not before 3 years, vaccine can be prepared, because several experiments are to be done on animals, and then their treatment, only then it can be brought to the market. Then you have to look for the budget, how much time you need and how much money is needed. Money is to be decided on your duration. If you make a project of 3 years, you divide it into 3 phases. And in 3 phases, how much you need in the first phase, because there you have to collect the data first, and you have to propose which part of this data is valid and which part of it can be done in the next phase. In the next phase, you complete one part of the data. Then in the third phase, you finalize it, write the results, and present it to the people in your lab. A good research proposal will mean that you have a very relevant area and you are also well versed with the techniques that you are using, and you are putting a hypothesis before you take up this work. And finally, you can develop a standard operating procedure for your work so that it can become common and the other laboratories can also be be able to repeat that experiment using your procedure. And the best part will be a standard operating procedure that you produce that can be used by other people also. Here, there is a problem faced by the research guide in the college. The allocation of the guide, allocation of the problem. There will be always interference with the principal and the management. So this is to be sorted out by the research guide and the principal themselves. The Board of Studies has also fixed a quota for each supervisor that I have already given to you, but it can further be changed by Board of Studies in case you have facility available. Here, it's a photograph of a common chemical laboratory that shows that how the chemicals are to be placed and organized. This is a general rule that the liquids should always be kept on the ground and the solid should be kept on the top of the shelf. Acids should always be kept on the ground so that if the bottle is broken accidentally, it should not damage the other chemicals on the laboratory equipments. As an instruction, the computer and the wash basin should always be kept at one corner so that in case of any damage, your instrument should not be damaged by water or acids. Here again, I'll give you a look of the university gate. This is the identification and the main entrance to the university. This is a grand mosque of the university from behind in a cloudy day, but it's really green and fine. This is one of the mosques that was built during the time of the founder of this university, Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. I thank you again for your patience and to give you an idea of the research proposals, how to write it, how to present it, and how to become a research supervisor yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Any query about it?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there any? Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. Hello,
Yes, please.
sir. May I ask in Hindi?
हाँ जी, please.
थैंक यू, सर. सर, आपने जो ये रिसर्च गाइड का जो बताया,
हाँ,
तो जैसे यूजीसी का आ गया है गाइडलाइन कि जो टीचर प्रोबेशन पीरियड में है
हाँ,
वो भी रिसर्च गाइड बन सकते हैं.
हाँ,
ये 1 या 2 मंथ पहले आ चुका है.
हाँ, हाँ.
और आप चूंकि सिस्टम को जानते हैं, यूनिवर्सिटी परेशान करती है कि नहीं हम लोग नहीं कर सकते हैं, तो हम लोग कैसे अपने यूनिवर्सिटी को कन्विंस करें कि यूजीसी की गाइडलाइन को फॉलो करें?
देखिए, कॉलेजेस में तो ये मुझे मालूम है कि प्रॉब्लम्स बहुत हैं और स्पेशली जो प्रिंसिपल और मैनेजमेंट होते हैं वही चाहते हैं कि रिसर्च तो आप करें नहीं, इसलिए कि रिसर्च में टाइम आप देंगे और कुछ खर्च भी होगा।
जी सर।
तो खर्च तो वो देते नहीं, लेकिन टाइम भी आपको नहीं देते। और
जी।
दूसरी मुश्किल ये होती है कि वो यूजीसी के रूल तो फॉलो नहीं करते, अपने रूल खुद ही बना लेते हैं कि आपको ऐसे करना है। जहां तक मुझे मालूम है, आपका जो टीचिंग लोड होता है उसके अलावा जो टाइम होता है उसमें आपका ज्यादा इंगेजमेंट कॉलेज में ना हो तो अच्छा है, वही टाइम आपका बचता है। अगर आप मान लीजिए कि प्रोबेशन पर है लेकिन आप जॉब में तो हैं,
यस सर।
आप जॉब में हैं और आपकी पोजीशन सिक्योर है, तो वो कंडीशन नहीं है कि आप रिसर्च नहीं करा, आप रिसर्च भी करा सकते हैं। आपके पास सिर्फ टाइम है, और उनको ये फोर्स करने के लिए कि यूजीसी का रूल फॉलो करें, आप सारे टीचर्स मिल करके उनसे ये पहली बात तो कहें कि ये रूल्स हैं जहां आप हमारे लिए थोड़ी मदद कर सकते हैं, कि इसमें अगर आप ये रूल फॉलो करते हैं तो हमारे लिए भी आसानी है, और आपका कोई टाइम ना तो खर्च होगा और ना कोई पैसा खर्च होगा।
नहीं सर, यूनिवर्सिटी भी दोहरा रवैया अपनाती है कि यूनिवर्सिटी के जो टीचर हैं उनको वो प्रेफरेंस देती है, जो कॉलेज में टीचर हैं उनको एकदम साइडलाइन कर देते हैं।
उनका जहाँ तक मुझे मालूम है, उनका कहना ये होता है कि जो लोग यूनिवर्सिटी में रिसर्च कर रहे हैं उनके पास लोड कम है और उनके पास फैसिलिटी ज्यादा है। कॉलेज में टीचर्स जो होते हैं उनके पास लोड ज्यादा होता है और फैसिलिटी कम होती है। तो जो लोग, जैसे आप फिजिक्स में हो मान लीजिए, और फिजिक्स के लिए कोई इक्विपमेंट चाहिए, तो कॉलेज में इक्विपमेंट तो नहीं है लेकिन आपके पास टाइम है, तो आप वो टाइम यूज कर सकते हैं। कभी आसपास की लैब हो या यूनिवर्सिटी में जो लैब हो उससे आप करें, लेकिन उसके लिए तो ये होगा कि आप छुट्टी लेकर के जाएं वहाँ काम करें। रोज तो रोज नहीं जा सकते हैं और ना ही रोज आपको कोई टाइम देगा। तो उनको सिर्फ ये बताने की जरूरत है, आप सारे टीचर्स मिल करके रिक्वेस्ट ये करें कि यूजीसी का रूल फॉलो करने में हमारी भी आसानी है और आपकी आसानी है, और आपके कॉलेज का कोई नुकसान नहीं होगा और हमारा थोड़ा सा आसानी हो जाएगी, फायदा भी पहुंचेगा। और अगर आप मैनेजमेंट से कहेंगे तो मैनेजमेंट तो सिर्फ ये देखता है कि उनका फायदा किसमें हो रहा है, आपको एंगेज करने में, कि आप चलिए 26 जनवरी को फंक्शन है 3 दिन पहले तैयारी करेंगे, ये काम होता है। या स्पोर्ट्स हो रहे हैं आप उसमें एंगेज हो जाते हैं। तो ये काम तो स्कूल लेवल तक का ठीक है, आप जब कॉलेज में पढ़ा रहे हैं तो वहाँ तो रिसर्च के लिए आपको टाइम मिलना चाहिए। ये आप उन लोगों से कह भी सकते हैं, और कहें वो तो
मतलब कैसे कन्विंस करें, वही तो दिक्कत है सर। हम लोग तो कर रहे हैं यूनिवर्सिटी में भी ऑफिशियल को और कॉलेज ऑफिशियल्स को भी।
ये असल में जो दोहरा पैमाना आप बता रहे हैं ना, ये यूनिवर्सिटी वाले हमेशा कॉलेज को इग्नोर करते हैं, स्पेशली जो एफिलिएटेड कॉलेजेस हैं, जैसे आपके यहाँ यूपी में है, बरेली से एफिलिएटेड है, बहुत सारे कॉलेजेस आगरा से एफिलिएटेड है। तो एफिलिएटेड कॉलेज को तो वो इम्पोर्टेंस बहुत कम देते हैं, और वही हाल होता है रिसर्च का। फिर पूछते हैं कि आपने 5 साल में क्या किया, जब आपने हमको कुछ दिया ही नहीं तो हम करेंगे क्या। मुश्किल तो ये बस यही है, कोशिश कि आप किसी तरह से अपना टाइम निकाल करके कुछ करने की कोशिश करते रहें। यूनिवर्सिटी तो ज्यादा हेल्पफुल नहीं होती है, बस वो वहाँ होती है जब जो लोग वहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। ठीक है,
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू सर।
सर एक क्वेरी थी।
हाँ जी
जी सर, क्या डिग्री कॉलेज का टीचर एक गाइड बन सकता है? अगर बन सकता है तो उसके लिए कितने साल का एक्सपीरियंस होना जरूरी है सर?
नॉर्मली देखिए, एक्सपीरियंस आपका वहाँ से शुरू होता है। अगर आपने पीएचडी किया है तो आपका एक्सपीरियंस वो भी है, और जितना आपका जो टीचिंग एक्सपीरियंस है वो भी है। तो जनरली जहाँ तक मुझे मालूम है यूनिवर्सिटी के बारे में, वहाँ कोई ऐसी कंडीशन नहीं है। आपने 2 साल अगर टीचिंग कर ली तो आप रिसर्च गाइड बन सकते हैं और आप काम कर सकते हैं। आपके यहाँ अगर एफिलिएटेड कॉलेज है तो आपके अपने कोई रूल अगर नहीं है तो यूजीसी रूल ही लागू होगा। ये 2 से 3 साल का टीचिंग एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए, उसके बाद आप रिसर्च गाइड बन सकते हैं। पर आपके यहाँ परमिशन होती है यूनिवर्सिटी की, अगर एफिलिएटेड कॉलेज है तो आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी आपको परमिशन देगी। फिर वो आप प्रिंसिपल के थ्रू जाएंगे, एक एडवांस कॉपी आप उनको भेजिए और एक प्रिंसिपल के थ्रू भेजिए
जी,
और उस पर आप कॉपी आप रजिस्ट्रार को भेजिए और वाइस चांसलर को भी भेजिए।
जी सर।
किसी न किसी सोर्स से आपको जवाब मिल जाए कि आपने इतने दिन से काम किया है और इतने दिन का है। आई एम होपफुली यू विल गेट द रिप्लाई विद इन 2 वीक्स।
जी सर।
और मैं समझता हूँ कि इसमें कोई मुश्किल नहीं होती। आप उसमें ये जरूर आप बताइए कि हमारे पास कितना टाइम मिलता है, हमारे पास ये फैसिलिटी है और हम ये स्पेयर टाइम अपना इस्तेमाल करना चाहते हैं रिसर्च के लिए। आई शुड बी रजिस्टर्ड एज ए गाइड इन दिस यूनिवर्सिटी विथ इमीडिएट इफेक्ट।
जी सर।
ठीक है।
जी सर। जी सर।
अगर कोई सवाल नहीं हो देन आई कैन स्टॉप हियर एंड थैंक यू अगेन।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
थैंक यू सर।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू सर।
Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू सर।
अमित जी, अन्य यूनिवर्सिटीज ने तो प्रोविजन पीरियड में ही बना दी है गाइड।
बना दे, वो यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ विद्यालय सब तमाशा करता है ना। मैं तो रजिस्ट्रार से
जो लेक्चर उन्होंने दिया बंद
अब बरेली और कानपुर का रेफरेंस लेकर के
एक्सपीरियंस मेरे पास सब कुछ है, मैंने सब कुछ दे दिया। रजिस्ट्रार से मैं 4 बार मिल चुका हूँ, बट वही डेट ब्यूरोक्रेसी और बाद में आई है, मतलब टालने का जो उनका रवैया होता है उन लोगों का।
अब बुंदेलखंड से है ना
जी।
अच्छा अच्छा, आप एक काम करिए,
बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज का मीटिंग होने दीजिए, उसमें हम लोग देखते हैं।
आप शाम को फोन करते हैं।
ठीक है,
मैं बताता हूँ।
ओके सर।
उनसे बात करिए।